Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I am Valsa Williams and with me is Tanvi Taneja with the Midday News. The headlines. President Ramnath Kovind says national education policy gives top priority to basic literacy for all children at primary school level by 2025. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says education policy and education system are important means of fulfilling the aspirations of the country. India successfully flight tests indigenous hypersonic technology demonstrator vehicle. Metro services in different cities resume after a gap of more than 5 months. And in US Open, Indo-Canadian duo of Rohan Bopanna and Denis Shapovalov to play men's doubles quarterfinals today, and Novak Djokovic disqualified after striking a line judge with a ball. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the new education policy and said that it will change the one-size-fits-all theory of earlier education policies. He said the new education policy will prepare Indian youth for new challenges in the ever-evolving sphere of employment and jobs. He was addressing the inaugural session of the Governors' Conference on National Education Policy through video conference this morning.
ये पॉलिसी देश के युवाओं को भविष्य की आवश्यकताओं के मुताबिक नॉलेज और स्किल्स दोनों मोर्चों पर तैयार करेगी। नई शिक्षा नीति स्टडी के बजाय लर्निंग पर फोकस करती है और करिकुलम से और आगे बढ़कर क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग पर जोर देती है। इस पॉलिसी में प्रोसेस से ज्यादा पैशन, प्रैक्टिकलिटी और परफॉर्मेंस पर बल दिया गया है। एक तरह से देखें तो ये वन साइज फिट्स ऑल की अप्रोच से हमारी शिक्षा व्यवस्था को बाहर निकालने का एक मजबूत प्रयास है।
The Prime Minister said that suggestions of more than 2 lakh people from across the country were amalgamated in the new education policy.
शिक्षा नीति का जो ड्राफ्ट तैयार हुआ था, उसके अलग अलग पॉइंट्स पर भी 2 लाख से अधिक लोगों ने अपने सुझाव दिए थे। नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी सिर्फ पढ़ाई लिखाई के तौर तरीकों में ही बदलाव लाने के लिए नहीं है। ये पॉलिसी 21वीं सदी के भारत के सामाजिक और आर्थिक जीवन को नई दिशा देने वाली है। ये पॉलिसी आत्मनिर्भर भारत के संकल्प और सामर्थ्य को आकार देने वाली है।
The PM asserted that education policy is the key to fulfill the nation's aspirations and called for minimal government intervention and influence in its implementation.
देश की एस्पिरेशंस को पूरा करने का बहुत महत्वपूर्ण माध्यम शिक्षा नीति और शिक्षा व्यवस्था होती है। शिक्षा व्यवस्था की जिम्मेदारी से केंद्र सरकार, राज्य सरकार, स्थानीय निकाय सभी जुड़े होते हैं, लेकिन ये भी सही है कि शिक्षा नीति में सरकार, उसका दखल, उसका प्रभाव कम से कम होना चाहिए। शिक्षा नीति से जितना शिक्षक जुड़े होंगे, अभिभावक जुड़े होंगे, छात्र छात्राएं जुड़े होंगे, उतना ही उसकी प्रासंगिकता और व्यापकता दोनों ही बढ़ती है।
The Prime Minister said the policy paves the way for opening campuses of the best international institutions in India so that youth from common families can also join them. The Prime Minister said India has been an ancient centre of learning and the new policy will help in making it a hub of knowledge economy in the 21st century. President Ramnath Kovind, while addressing the conference, said the new education policy gives top priority to provide basic literacy and numeracy to all children at primary school level by the year 2025.
इस शिक्षा नीति में यह स्पष्ट किया गया है कि सार्वजनिक शिक्षा प्रणाली ही जीवंत लोकतांत्रिक समाज का आधार होती है। अतः सार्वजनिक शिक्षण संस्थानों को मजबूत बनाना अत्यंत आवश्यक है। वर्ष 2025 तक प्राथमिक विद्यालय स्तर पर सभी बच्चों को मूलभूत साक्षरता और संख्या ज्ञान प्राप्त कराना इस शिक्षा प्रणाली की सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता तय की गई है।
The President said the policy has been formulated after an unprecedented and lengthy process of consultations, including over 2 lakh suggestions received from about 675 districts.
यह शिक्षा नीति परामर्शों की अभूतपूर्व और लंबी प्रक्रिया के बाद तैयार की गई है। मुझे बताया गया है कि इस नीति के निर्माण में लगभग 2.5 लाख ग्राम पंचायतों, 12,500 से अधिक स्थानीय निकायों तथा लगभग 675 जिलों से प्राप्त 2 लाख से अधिक सुझावों को ध्यान में रखा गया है। ऐसी राष्ट्रव्यापी तथा विस्तृत भागीदारी के कारण ये शिक्षा नीति सही मायनों में राष्ट्रीय अपेक्षाओं और समाधानों को समाहित करती है।
The President said that integration of technology in education system will further boost the corrective measures and informed that a National Educational Technology Forum will soon be established in the country to suggest such measures to all stakeholders.
टेक्नोलॉजी के उपयोग और इंटीग्रेशन से शिक्षण प्रक्रिया में सुधार को गति मिलेगी तथा बेहतर परिणाम निकलेंगे। इसके लिए नेशनल एजुकेशनल टेक्नोलॉजी फोरम NETF की स्थापना की जाएगी। NETF द्वारा राज्य सरकार की एजेंसियों को भी परामर्श उपलब्ध कराया जाएगा। इस शिक्षा नीति की सफलता केंद्र तथा राज्य दोनों के प्रभावी योगदान पर निर्भर करेगी। उच्चतर शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में इस शिक्षा नीति की अनुशंसाओं का समयबद्ध पालन सुनिश्चित करने के लिए विश्वविद्यालयों के कुलपतियों तथा शिक्षकों की वैकेंसीज पर अतिशीघ्र सुयोग्य व्यक्तियों को नियुक्त करने की आवश्यकता है।
The President asked governors to organize theme-based virtual sessions in their states to implement the new national education policy. He said the feedback from these sessions can be sent to the Education Ministry for further considerations and utilization at the national level. The conference, titled Role of NEP 2020 in Transforming Higher Education, is being organized by the Ministry of Education. NEP 2020 is the first education policy of the 21st century, which was announced after 34 years of the previous National Policy on Education 1986. NEP 2020 is directed towards major reforms in both school and higher education level. The Governors' Conference is also being attended by education ministers of all states, vice-chancellors of state universities and other senior officials.
In a giant leap in indigenous defence technologies, India successfully flight-tested Hypersonic Technology Demonstrator Vehicle, HSTDV. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh congratulated Defence Research and Development Organisation, DRDO, for successfully testing the HSTDV using indigenously developed scramjet propulsion system. Mr. Singh said this landmark achievement is towards realizing Prime Minister's vision of an Atmanirbhar Bharat. The Defence Minister said with this success, all critical technologies are now established to progress to the next phase. Mr. Singh spoke to the scientists associated with the project and said the country is proud of them. The chairman of DRDO, Mr. G. Satish Reddy, also congratulated all the scientists, researchers and other personnel associated with the HSTDV mission for their resolute and unwavering efforts towards strengthening the nation's defence capabilities. India has registered remarkable recovery of over 32,50,000 from COVID-19 so far, and 70,000 patients recovered from the highly infectious disease in the last 24 hours. The overall recovery rate stands at 77.31%. The Health Ministry has informed that the actual caseload of the country currently comprises only 20.99% of the total positive cases. The Ministry said the number of recovered patients in the country has improved over 3 times in a span of 1 month. The number of recovered patients has overtaken the active cases by nearly 3.7 times. Effective implementation of test, track and treat approach has led to higher recoveries and lower fatalities. Currently, India's case fatality rate is at 1.70%. In the last 24 hours, 90,802 new cases have been reported, taking the total number of positive cases to 42,04,614. Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh together account for over 50% of the confirmed cases added in the last 24 hours. Presently, the total number of active corona cases in the country is 8,82,542. In the last 24 hours, 1,016 deaths have been reported, taking the toll to 71,642. Over 7,20,000 COVID samples were tested nationwide in the last 24 hours by nearly 1,655 labs in the country. The country has witnessed significant stepping up in its COVID testing capacity in the last 5 months. From just 160 labs testing COVID samples on 23rd of March this year, the country today has 1,028 government labs and 627 private labs.
Telangana today reported 1,802 fresh COVID-19 cases during the past 24 hours, taking the number of cases reported so far in the state to 1,42,771. Reporting of new cases registered a significant dip. The state conducted only about 36,000 tests during the past 24 hours. The recovery rate also slightly improved to 77.2%, with 2,711 more persons recovering yesterday. This took the number of recovered people to 1,10,241. Metro services resumed this morning in different cities across the country after a gap of more than 5 months. These cities are Delhi, Lucknow, Chennai, Bengaluru, Hyderabad and Ahmedabad. Secretary, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Durga Shankar Mishra, said passengers will have to follow preventive measures against COVID-19 by maintaining social distancing and wearing face masks.
मेट्रो संचालन में पूरी की पूरी मुस्तैदी हमने सारे के सारे हमारे जो मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर्स हैं मेट्रो कंपनीज के, इंक्लूडिंग दिल्ली मेट्रो के जो एमडी हैं, उनके माध्यम से सारी के सारी मेट्रो में वो सारी आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति करेंगे, जिससे कि पहला चीज कि जो भी लोग मेट्रो पे आए वो मास्क लगा के आए, बगैर मास्क के अंदर नहीं घुस सकते हैं। दूसरा, हर एक आदमी की थर्मल स्कैनिंग होगी, केवल ऐसे लोग जिनको टेम्परेचर नहीं है उन्हीं को अंदर आने दिया जाएगा। तीसरा, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग का पूरी तरह से पालन होगा।
Our correspondent reports that in the first stage, Delhi Metro resumed services in a graded manner today with elaborate measures for crowd management, ensuring hygiene to check the spread of COVID-19. The yellow line connecting Samaypur Badli and Huda city centre in Gurgaon was the first one to be opened. The services resumed at 7 a.m. with strict safety and social distancing measures in place. The trains will operate in batches of 4 hours each from 7 to 11 a.m. in the morning and 4 to 8 p.m. in the evening. Our correspondent reports that the turnout at the stations was less as compared to pre-COVID days. However, people welcomed the move, which they said has brought a big relief in terms of travel time and money spent on travelling.
In Telangana, commercial services of the Hyderabad Metro Rail on one of the 3 corridors from Miapur to LB Nagar began this morning. The Metro authorities informed that after operating till 12 noon, the services will resume again at 4 p.m. and continue till 9 p.m. The services in another corridor will commence tomorrow, and the 3rd corridor will be resumed the day after. Metro stations at the containment zones will remain closed. In Chennai, the Metro Rail services resumed this morning following the Unlock 4. The State Industries Minister, M.C. Sampant, inaugurated it at 7 a.m. by travelling by the train in the airport to Washermanpet route. More from our correspondent.
The Chennai Metro Rail Limited has restarted its operation, initially with the Blue Line connecting the airport with Washermanpet via Nandanam and LIC. The Green Line services from St. Thomas Mount to Central will be resumed on Wednesday. The trains are to be run from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, with the frequency of 1 train for every 5 minutes during the peak hours and 1 for 10 minutes during the other times. The passengers underwent thermal screening before boarding the trains. Human interface in ticketing procedures has been minimized using technology options. The initial response to the services remains lukewarm, though it is expected to pick up momentum gradually. Social distancing is being enforced inside the trains. Along with metro service in Chennai, long-distance bus service to almost all important cities and towns in the state were also restarted today, with about 60% of the seat occupancy. Jai Singh, AAR News, Chennai.
Our Ahmedabad correspondent has filed this report on resumption of metro services in the city.
Metro authorities completed necessary sanitization work ahead of resumption of its services from today. Ahmedabad Metro service will remain restricted for the first 2 days to ensure the COVID-related precautionary measures. First metro train with 10% capacity started at 11 a.m. today, while the second trip will start at 4:25 p.m. between Aparel Park and Vastralgam. Metro services will be available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on 13 September due to NEET examination. The train coaches will be sanitized after every trip. Markings have been made inside the train and on the platforms to ensure social distancing. Yogesh Pandya, AR News, Ahmedabad.
In Uttar Pradesh, the Lucknow Metro resumed operations at 6 this morning. More from our correspondent.
The first train of Lucknow Metro moved this morning at 6 a.m. after a gap of over 5 months from Munshi Pulia and airport stations. Train operations will continue with normal timings and last metro will run on 10 p.m. For commuters, trains will be available on an interval of 5 minutes 30 seconds. The trains will stop at every station and masks will be mandatory, which will be provided in case any passenger forgets to bring it along with him. Normally, 2 gates will be functional at every metro station with no separate gates for entry and exit. It will be mandatory to sanitize hands and sanitizers will be available at every gate and temperature of every passenger will be taken. Social distancing markings have been done on alternate seats to maintain sufficient gap between passengers inside train also. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
Kochi Metro also resumed operations today after 168 days of shutdown in the wake of COVID-19. The 25.16-kilometer long service is being conducted after adhering to COVID protocols for the safe journey of commuters. The services are available in 2 slots, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. today and tomorrow. From Wednesday onwards, the services will be run from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Passenger train services have been partially restored in Tamil Nadu from today after a gap of almost 5 months following COVID-19 lockdown. 4 passenger train services have commenced in Tamil Nadu as part of Unlock 4 procedures. 2 more day services are being operated between Karaikude and Chennai and between Tuticorin and Chennai. An additional night service be operated from tonight between Madurai and Chennai. You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. President Ramnath Kovind says national education policy gives top priority to basic literacy for all children at primary school level by 2025. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says education policy and education system are important means of fulfilling the aspirations of the country. India successfully flight tests indigenous hypersonic technology demonstrator vehicle. Metro services in different cities resume after a gap of more than 5 months. And in US Open, Indo-Canadian duo of Rohan Bopanna and Denis Shapovalov to play men's doubles quarterfinals today. And Novak Djokovic disqualified after striking a line judge with a ball. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
The Supreme Court today granted another 4 weeks' time to states to file their responses on a plea seeking directions to provide masks and sanitizers to the elderly amid COVID-19 pandemic. The matter came up for hearing before a bench headed by Justice Ashok Bhushan. The bench, in its August 4th order, had directed that all eligible old-age persons should be regularly paid pension and states should provide them necessary medicines, masks, sanitizers and other essential goods in the wake of the pandemic. The centre has informed the Supreme Court that airlines will fully refund air tickets booked for travel during the lockdown. This applies to domestic and international tickets booked between March the 25th and May the 3rd this year and will have to be refunded immediately. The move comes after the Supreme Court asked the centre to explain its position on a PIL seeking full refund of air tickets booked during lockdown. The government also said if the airlines are unable to make full refund, the flyers will get credit shell up to March the 31st next year. The centre also said the passengers can use the credit on any route of their choice and should also be able to transfer it to anyone. The airlines will devise a mechanism to facilitate such a transfer. In what could possibly be the world's largest and fastest ever operation of its kind, UNICEF has announced that it will be leading the procurement and supply of coronavirus vaccines to ensure that all countries have safe, fast and equitable access to initial doses when they are available. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, is the world's largest single vaccine buyer, procuring more than 2 billion doses of various vaccines annually for routine immunization and outbreak response on behalf of nearly 100 countries.
In our series Experts Speak on All India Radio, we bring you the views of leading medical experts on COVID-19. Talking to AIR News, Dr. Amarchand Bajaj, Senior Consultant at the Sitaram Bhartiya Institute of Science and Research in New Delhi, highlighted the importance of hygiene and how to maintain it to contain novel coronavirus.
जब तक हमारे पास इनकी ट्रीटमेंट वैक्सीन या मेडिसिन के रूप में ना निकले तब तक हमें जो प्रिकॉशनरी मेजर्स है वो फॉलो करने हैं। जहाँ जरूरत ना हो उसमें घर से बिल्कुल बाहर ना निकले, कोशिश करें कम से कम बाहर निकलना है। और जबकि निकलना भी पड़ा घर से बाहर तो कोशिश करें कि जहाँ आप 2 लोग खड़े हैं करीब 2 मीटर दूर खड़े रहें, नहीं तो कम से कम 1 मीटर दूर खड़े रहें।
Dr. Naresh Gupta of Loknayak Jayaprakash Narayan Hospital in Delhi said, in most of the cases, the COVID-19 infections are self-limiting and very few patients are required to take admission in hospital.
It's very important to maintain the social distancing and the isolation because there is no treatment for coronavirus. The only way we can control this disorder is prevention, and that is the reason social distancing is very important.
The government has said that identification of severely acute malnourished children and their management will be undertaken as focus activities during the 3rd Rashtriya Poshan Mah, which is being celebrated during the month of September. Our correspondent reports that every year Poshan Mah is celebrated under the Poshan Abhiyan, PM's overarching scheme for holistic nourishment, which was launched in 2018.
The objective of the Poshan Mah is to encourage Jan Bhagidari for addressing malnutrition among young children and women to ensure health and nutrition for everyone. During the Poshan Mah, awareness generation activities will be undertaken regarding importance of early breastfeeding, need for good nutrition during first 1000 days of life, and measures for reducing anemia in young women and children. Considering the prevalent COVID situation in the country, Women and Child Development Ministry is encouraging all stakeholders to use digital platforms for celebrating Poshan Mah. Social media, online activities, podcasts and e-Samvad will be used to disseminate knowledge and information about importance of nutrition in our lives. With Dipendra Kumar, Anand Chaturvedi, AIR News, Delhi.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for coordinated efforts to reach out to people across the length and breadth of the country in order to spread awareness on eradication of malnutrition. He said this will help Nari Shakti and Yuva Shakti. The Prime Minister said proper nutrition is vital to build a prosperous nation. Home Minister Amit Shah has said Poshan Abhiyan is a robust scheme which has been playing an unprecedented role in eliminating malnutrition from the country, and the scheme will be further strengthened to build a malnutrition-free India.
In our series on Gandhian philosophy, today we bring you a report on Gandhiji's views on communal harmony and religious tolerance. Mahatma Gandhi was a great proponent of communal unity. He firmly believed that all religions teach men to be good and peaceful, and that intolerance is the religion of the negative. The father of the nation said that the essence of true religious teaching is that one should serve and befriend all. A report.
Mahatma Gandhi was a champion of communal harmony and wanted all Indians, be they of any religion, to unite against the colonial government. He never found serious differences between the Hindus and Muslims and other minorities communities like the Christians, the Sikhs and Parsis. Gandhiji saw an inviolable harmony existing in all creation enshrined in all religions, and it was this principle that led him to accord equal respect to all faiths. He stressed open, universal peace, brotherhood and reverence for all life. Mahatma Gandhi said, the final goal of all religions is to realize this essential oneness. With Dipendra Kumar, Anupam Mishra, AIR News, Delhi.
The first issue of Navjeevan, a weekly newspaper bearing the name of Gandhiji as its editor, was published on the 7th of September 1919. When word spread that Gandhiji was writing, the first issue received 2,500 subscriptions and orders started coming from Mumbai. The subscription increased to more than 15,000 copies. No other Gujarati weekly had such a large readership in those days. The weekly newspaper became a live platform for Gandhiji to interact with the masses.
In the US Open tennis, the Indo-Canadian pair of Rohan Bopanna and Denis Shapovalov will face the Dutch-Romanian duo of Jean-Juliet Roger and Horia Tecco in the men's doubles quarterfinals today. Bopanna and Shapovalov reached the quarterfinals after defeating the German pair of Kevin Kravitz-Andrea Mies in the second-round clash that lasted for an hour and 47 minutes. In women's singles, Serena Williams will take on Maria Sakkari of Greece in the fourth round. World number 1 Novak Djokovic was sensationally disqualified from the US Open after striking a line judge with a ball during his fourth-round match yesterday. This marked a stunning end to his 29-match winning streak and bid for an 18th Grand Slam title. Novak Djokovic went 5-6 down in the first set to Spain's Pablo Carreño Busta when he hit a ball in the direction of the female official. It struck her in the throat and she could be heard gasping. Djokovic rushed over to check that she was okay, and after a few minutes she got up and walked off the court. Following discussions with the tournament referee, the umpire declared that Carreño Busta had won by default. Djokovic shook hands with Carreño Busta before leaving the court. Djokovic left the tournament grounds without speaking to the media. His departure means that there is no male player left in the field who has won a Grand Slam singles title. Whoever emerges as champion will be the first-time major trophy winner in men's tennis since 2014 when Marin Cilic won the US Open.
Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Edappadi Palanisamy has donated his eyes today. Coinciding with the National Eye Donation Fortnight, he has pledged to donate his eyes. Tamil Nadu remains at the forefront in eye and organ donation nationally. Now, a look at today's weather. The national capital, Delhi, is likely to witness a generally cloudy sky with light rain. Minimum temperature was 26 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be 36 degrees. In Mumbai, generally cloudy sky with light rain is expected. The temperature is likely to hover between 27 and 34 degrees Celsius. Chennai is likely to witness a generally cloudy sky with light rain. The minimum temperature was 26 degrees, while the maximum could reach 34. Kolkata may have a partly cloudy sky with possibility of moderate rain or thunderstorm. Minimum temperature was 28 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be 35 degrees. In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature was recorded at 21 degrees Celsius in Jammu, while the maximum will be around 33 degrees. The city will have a mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. In Srinagar, the temperature will hover between 14 and 28 degrees Celsius. The city is likely to see a partly cloudy sky. Ladakh will also have a partly cloudy sky. Temperature may hover around 16 and 26 degrees Celsius. Gilgit and Muzaffarabad are likely to have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. Minimum temperature in Gilgit was 14 degrees, while the maximum will be 28 degrees. In Muzaffarabad, minimum temperature was 21 degrees. Maximum is expected to be around 31. In Dehradun, minimum temperature was 22 degrees Celsius and maximum could go up to 32 degrees. The city may have a partly cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm. Chandigarh may witness a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The temperature may hover between 26 and 33 degrees Celsius. In Hyderabad, the minimum temperature was 24 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be 34 degrees. The city will have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Guwahati may experience a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The minimum temperature was recorded at 24 degrees Celsius, while the maximum could be 31 degrees. Two-day monsoon session of the Maharashtra legislature began today in Mumbai by adhering to COVID-19 protocols. This session is perhaps the shortest one in the history of Maharashtra legislature. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. President Ramnath Kovind says national education policy gives top priority to basic literacy for all children at primary school level by 2025. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says education policy and education system are important means of fulfilling the aspirations of the country. India successfully flight tests indigenous hypersonic technology demonstrator vehicle. Metro services in different cities resume after a gap of more than 5 months. In US Open, Indo-Canadian duo of Rohan Bopanna and Denis Shapovalov to play men's doubles quarterfinals today. And Novak Djokovic disqualified after striking a line judge with a ball. And with that, we end the midday news.